right, so back at it. I'm forgoing my intro so I can not take up the time on that. And I'm trying not to sweat because I'm like, oh, I gotta hurry it up. Here's a counter and everything. Anyway, so she said that he was the easiest child to raise and that he took his life 4 years ago. And she believes that God gave him to her for the very short time that she had him, and then called him home to help others. So I was like, oh yeah, you know. And I said, and my son chimed in, right? Because I was like, oh yeah. My son's like, because he's listening while doing his Game Boy. He goes, my mom sees the babies all the time, right? And over by the fireplace, right? He didn't say all the time. He's like, but it was basically, he acted like it was just like a thing, like a normal thing for us, which is a normal thing. And she was like, I saw him sitting by he said sitting on the fireplace. And I said, well, sitting by the fireplace, like just to the left of it, kind of like in a row. And I said, we think there are going to be 3 of them because I've seen them. I've seen them running through my home. I've seen them in my visions and in my dreams at various stages of like growth, like age range and stuff. I've even seen them as adults. And so she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, really. And I said, I believe in the vision that he's talking about. My son came in through the door and I knew that I was a grandma and that he had just made me a grandma. And if I have to place him by age, I believe he's like 19, 20 years old. So I think around 19 or 20, he's going to make me a grandma. That's our son, Cedar Greyhawk, which we didn't say any names, by the way. I'm just letting you know. So he was getting ready to leave, and I just naturally, just like anybody would, just naturally just glanced back. And that's when I saw my boys sitting. I believe they're all going to be boys. One's going to be a set of twins, and then one's going to be by himself, like as in coming here by himself. So I think I'm going to have 2 pregnancies. But anyways, I didn't tell her the 2 pregnancy part. I just said I think I'm going to have 1 set of twins and then 1 by itself. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I said, you know what? I think you guys were sent to me because I was having a bit of an issue. They wouldn't let me be with my husband before he went back to surgery, because they said that my son was not 12, right? He was under the age of 12. And I kind of got a little welled up, you know, and I was like, oh, sorry, you know. And my son was like, oh, you know, it's okay, Mama, you know, you want a hug? And I was like, absolutely, buddy. And I gave him a big old hug. And I was like, buddy, you get the best hugs. I was like, thank you so much. And he's like, you want another one? I was like, absolutely, buddy. Anyway, and then the lady was like, well, I need to find my husband now. And I said, he went that way because it was the chairs we were sitting in. And then it was the condiment thing. Then the robot hoodad. And then on the other side of that, because it had like a partition between the robot dilly and the vending machines. And he was over at the vending machines and he goes, I'm over here, dear, you know. And then I was just like, you know, thank you, you know. And she was like, good luck with everything. I was like, thank you so much. And they walked off. And I'm going to tell you, after that, I tuned into myself. God dog it. I was completely calm. There were no more tears. There was no worry. There was just, okay, well, we're going to wait. And I'm going to tell you, you would think that waiting for like, we checked in, let's see, it was going to be 1400 when his surgery is supposed to start. And then we checked in at like around noon when we're supposed to. And it was just like a little bit before noon. So from then, and I'm going to tell you, we didn't leave until like after 1700. Okay, his surgery went a little late, and I'll elaborate on that another time. But those people in real time, I asked for help, y'all, and I received it in multiple ways. And my son, being 5 and having to like sit still and stuff, like that energy transferred into him. Like he wasn't going crazy or nothing. He was just being his normal self. But he was really hyper focused on his Game Boy, trying to beat it. Because if you remember, Game Boys, like in the 80s and all that, they didn't save nothing. I don't know if any Game Boys after that did, but they don't save nothing. So when it says game over, you got to start all the way from the beginning. You may lose a life after you've accumulated lives, and it starts you off at the last like point or whatever, and you can continue. But once it says game over across the screen, you got to start all over. And he didn't want to do nothing else. He thought he did. And so we started to do something else. And he's like, no, give me a Game Boy. He got like a cramp in his little left thumb and everything. But he's like shaking it out. And it just reminded me of being that little kid, that little joyous, joyful kid, just like super focused on that really fun game. Anyway, it's pretty cool. But you ask for help, you will absolutely get it. You just have to be receptive to it, and don't try and stick and stay in your feelings that you're asking for help to get out of. You have to go with it, because I'm going to tell you, any other time I'd never talk to that lady, right? Like 5 years ago, here comes somebody like, no thank you, okay thank you, and then just like put my head down and keep doing stuff, and just like ignore, and then put that energy out there where they leave me alone and walk off. No, that was the most, I would have missed that healing moment for myself and for our son, right? Because he really benefited from that encounter as well. Anyway, don't have to go hang a key. We had a good shot. Till we meet again. Love you, mean it.